Hello, thank you for being with us today at LibFest, the online book fair of cultural experiences. I am Juliana Raducan, the manager of the publishing house Creator, and I am very glad that my guest for this event is Saskia Sargentson, the author of The Bench, published by Creator. Saskia Sargentson has a BA in fashion design and communication from St. Martin's School of Art, and she fell in love with English literature that she read at Cambridge University. She was awarded a distinction in her creative writing MA from Royal Holloway University. She has written for several publications such as Cosmopolitan, You Magazine, The Telegraph, Sainsbury Magazine. She has also been a scriptreader, copywriter, and ghostwriter. Her debut novel is The Twins, which was published in 2013 and was translated in more than 15 languages. Before The Bench, Saskia published Without You, The Other Me, and The Stranger. The Bench is definitely a bittersweet love story, the love story of Kat and Sam, who bears almost all, even the 3 decades, and has its ups and downs. But you have also written thrillers such as Without You. Most commonly, the writers of thrillers go on with this type of writing, but you came up with such a wonderful and warm love story in The Bench. What made you go in this direction, Saskia?
Hi, well, thank you for having me. I think all of my books have got love stories at the heart of them, and I really enjoy writing about relationships and emotions. So and I don't like to be pigeonholed in one particular genre. Even when I write a thriller, it's still got elements in it, maybe of historical fiction or a love story. So I just decided that I wanted to write this story, and that's something that I'm going to continue to do for a little while, I think, to explore love stories.
Your readers and critics resemble the story from The Bench to David Nichols' One Day or Jojo Moyes' Me Before You. But all of them, including yours, are sad love stories. All of them are bestsellers. Do you think people got enough with Happily Ever After from the fairy tales? What do you think?
I think that there is something that we crave sometimes through fiction. If we can, it's a way of, especially with a love story, because it's so emotional, we can reach our own emotions, and it can be quite cathartic. People sometimes like to cry because actually it allows you to tap into your own sadness and your own emotions. So in a way, reading sad love stories can actually be cathartic. But I also, in my books, I always like to give some light at the end of the tunnel. There's always hope. There's always, I tend to finish it with a note of happiness. It's never just sad. Because I think if someone's got all the way through a novel, it's good to give them something at the end which allows them to have hope.
Important while reading this kind of stories, because sometimes they are too sad, and you think, if this happens in real life, what can we hope for? What is for us to live? In The Bench, in a nutshell, we have a young couple that lived a very short period of happiness, just a few days, and they remain attached to those happy days, trying to come back to the way they were. But time changes all. Wasn't exactly this reason that made their life difficult, knowing that once was someone that they thought it was meant to be, but things didn't go well. Isn't it a way in which we can miss things in our lives just because we hang on a feeling too long, and hence the difficulty of living life as it is?
Yes, I think that was the danger for Kat and Sam all the way through, the fact that they were missing out on the lives which they already had and that they had made for themselves because they wanted to be together. And so there was always a sense of putting something off. But I think that's what we all do in life quite often, actually. It's a way of, we quite often think, well, you know, I'll be happy when I've lost weight, I'll be happy when I get that job, I'll be happy if I move house. And there's this sort of sense that the grass is always greener. But at the same time, I also think that there are people in your life which you can never forget. And I think that there are a very, very few people that you're actually really going to fall deeply in love with. And then to know that person is still out there in the world and they still want to be with you, but you've already set off down another path. That is the kind of question I wanted to raise in the novel. And some people will think they should have just got on with the lives that they had. They had good lives. They should have just got on with them. And other people, I think anybody who's experienced that kind of love will think, but you've always got that shadow in your mind that you could be with that other person. And it's sort of maybe that trying to actually achieve what you really want to achieve, which is to be with that person, is more important.
Yes, I think it sounds like we always have they had a backup plan. You know, if my life doesn't turn what I wanted it to be, I will always have Sam or Kat waiting for
Mm.
me at the end of the road. So
Mm.
I think that
Yeah.
that was it for them.
Mm.
Um, I was reading these days a book by Julia Cameron, The Listening Path, book that we will publish at Creator. She also wrote The Artist's Way. Maybe you are familiar with them, and she was talking there about tools that can improve our listening skills and our creativity. What are the tools you that help you to trigger your creativity?
I think there are two different stages really, because there's the stage where you're before I write a book and I don't have an idea in my head, then ideas can come from all over the place. They can come from going to see an exhibition or watching a film or just a conversation with somebody. And then you begin to piece together a story in your head. So it's important to get out into the world, I think, and to be stimulated by art and by what's going on and to talk to people. Live your life, basically, because it's through life that we get ideas. When I'm actually writing a story, though, it's slightly different because when I'm in the world of the story, then I need a lot of time on my own and I need a lot of thinking time. So going for long dog walks, going for runs, just being outside in nature, I find that's very helpful.
Thank you. As I said in the short introduction, you wrote several novels, but tell us more about your writing process. How important it is the research part for you? Do you use some sketches for the characters? How do you do it?
So my writing process is it's basically, I mean, I write every day. I try to write every day because I think that's really important. And I, yeah, I think I think I try and work up the characters once I've got the bones of the story and the idea of the characters. I try and work the characters up a little bit more before I start writing. But the funny thing is, it's the actual process of writing itself that teaches you who the characters are, the choices they make as they go along allows you to understand them more, if you see what I mean. So quite often I throw the bones of a book down and then I'm gathering information all the time about who these people are. And then I go back to the beginning and I start threading in colour and detail into the characters and into the environment. I don't know, does that make sense?
Yes, totally, totally.
Mm.
Uh, Before publishing your first novel, The Twins, you were also a ghostwriter. Was this a good way for you to practice your own writing, your own writing style, or it was hard to remain in the shadow for a while? Your voice was too strong to live there longer?
Um, I didn't do very many ghostwriting jobs, and I just treated them like a job because, in the end, I started off as a journalist, and I'm very much somebody who will take a project on and meet my deadlines and be as professional as I can. So I love writing. I love all kinds of writing, and I enjoyed the challenge of doing the ghostwriting. I enjoyed the challenge of writing copy for newspapers and magazines. It's a very different kind of writing, and you're right. You can't put your own voice into it in the same way, but in a way that's quite a good thing. But having said that, obviously I prefer writing my novels. I like to put my own voice into it and to be free to create my own stories. That's the ideal way of writing.
Yes, I suppose that being your own name on the cover, it's the best for a writer.
Yeah.
Um, because we are talking about love and fiction, what was the first love story you have ever fallen in love with?
Okay. That is a really hard question. Um, I'm not sure what the first one would have been. Um, I do remember when I was a teenager reading a Daphne du Maurier book called Frenchman's Creek, which was very romantic, and I do remember loving that. I think one of the most iconic love stories for me is Cold Mountain by Charles Frazier. That book is so beautiful and so heartbreaking, and again, it's about these two protagonists who have very little time together before they're separated by the Civil War, and yet they long to be back together again. And this longing permeates the whole novel, and it's an incredible book.
A good book. And today I will also have an event with Kate Rose. She is the author of You Only Fall in Love Three Times. And according to her, during our lifetime, we may find ourselves in three types of romantic relationships. One is with our soulmate, the first love of our life, but things eventually end, although all seems to last forever. The second one is related to the karmic love, a love that consumes us so much that we feel exhausted, but at the same time we cannot let go. And the third one is related to our twin flame, the love that comes to us so easily, and things come so natural, and we become more the person we were meant to be. In what category do you think we can put the love between Sam and Kat?
Okay, well, I'm going to cheat a little bit here because I think it's a combination of the soulmate one and the last one, where they basically help each other to be more of who they are. Yeah, so I'm going to cheat. It's a mixture of those two. What was it? What was it called? That last one?
The
Soulmate,
last one, twin flame. Twin flame. The
twin
first
flame. Yeah,
is soulmate, and
soulmate, and then karmic, and then yeah. I think it would. They're twin flames, but they're also soulmates because they were each other's first love.
yes, yes, definitely. And the book is like paragraphs written by Sam or Kat. What of those do you enjoy more in writing? Sam's paragraphs or Kat's?
Um, I think I enjoy them both almost equally. Actually, I know that's not such an interesting answer, but uh, yeah, I think I found Kat's the hardest actually, getting into her head because she's American as well, and she had a very different life from my life. So I think probably she was more difficult to get into, but I enjoyed writing her in the end. Sam was closer to my own life, and I felt I knew him really well from the beginning. So I think he was easier for me to write.
You have a lot of fans that are in love with your novels, and also they are writing stories or novels themselves. I saw that on your personal blog, you give them some tips and tricks for writing. But did you have someone to give you those tips and tricks to you, or was something that you discovered along the way? And how difficult was, let's say, the way to get published?
Hmm. So I've always written. I've always loved writing. I was a journalist for a long time, and I've always written stories and poems and things. Um, I I think that I didn't really. I mean, it was basically a kind of process where I think going to Cambridge and studying literature in depth helped me hugely. Just having to critique and understand many different novels, all the classic novels, really helped me. And then I did my MA at Royal Holloway, which was really useful because what we did there was a little group of us. We all wanted to be writers. And what we had to do, the main thing we did was read each other's work and critique it. So it really taught you how to edit, and editing is key to writing. So I think that process, it was terrifying giving away your work to this group of people that you didn't even know at the beginning and letting them read it and then come back to you with their thoughts and ideas and criticisms was really scary, but in the end it was incredibly useful, and that taught me a huge amount. And I think in the end, it's very hard. You can have, I think writing a book is such an organic thing and everybody does it differently. It's very hard to teach someone how to write a book, but you can certainly improve writing with different techniques. There is a skill to writing, and I think you can learn things to help you be a better writer. But the main thing is to bring out your own voice, and the main thing is to just practice, practice, practice. You just have to write every day and read every day.
But tell me, was The Twins the first novel that you have ever written, or you tried to write many novels before?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It was not the first. People tend to think your debut novel is the first novel you ever wrote, and that is rarely true. Most people have written other novels before a novel gets published because it's hard to get published and it's hard to get it right. So I had written, I don't even know how many, at least four other novels before The Twins. Um, yeah, and I had nearly got published a couple of times, and then it fell through at the last minute, which was devastating because you work for over a year really hard on something and you think it's going to be published and then it's not, and you have to start all over again. It's very time consuming, and yeah, you just have to pick yourself up and start again. But that's also a learning process.
What made you rise up after one publisher refuses you? What made you continue to do this?
I just love writing. I just love writing, and I knew that even if I was never published, I'd still write. I'd have to go back to journalism to make some money, but I would continue to write my own stuff, my own words, my own voice, because it just, that's what I love doing best in the world. So I suppose it was, yeah, it wasn't even ambition. I think it was just, well, I feel like I'm a writer, so I'm just going to keep writing.
From all your novels, you love to play with different periods of time. But what novel of them was the hardest for you to write?
The Other Me was the hardest because I don't know if anybody's read that, but it's about a girl who has a German father, and she kind of lives with the guilt of his past because he was involved in the Second World War. But actually, I wrote that without, there's also a strand that goes all the way through the book, which is a historical strand, which is about these two German brothers and how they were brought up and what happened to them when the war happened. And I didn't have that strand at the beginning. I only had her story. and it wasn't enough. There wasn't enough of the story there. And then I realized I had to put this background story in. And as soon as I did that, the whole book came alive. But I needed to do a lot of research for that strand. So it was quite a lot of hard work. But I really enjoyed it. I loved it. But it was a bit of a messy book to write because I was lacking something and I had to find out what it was. And then I had to do all the research and thread that other story into the other story.
And when you write, you have the ending in mind, and for the bench, do you think at another ending of the book? I don't know. I don't want to spoil the book for the readers, but can you tell us if you were tempted to change the ending of the book?
Yes, I nearly did. Yeah, I did have another ending, which I toyed with, and then I decided that after a book of this kind, where we're waiting, I didn't feel that I could put in the ending I did have an idea that I might do. It would have been too, I think it would have been too cruel for everybody, so I didn't do it.
Yes, thank you, Saskia, for being with us today. Thank you all for watching us. You can find Saskia's book, The Bench, Baga iubirii noastre, locul unde a început totul, at a special discount throughout the book fair on Libris.ro. I invite you to watch the other events at LibFest. Have a nice day.